doing, baby? Good.
Well, Stacy, how's it feel to be back in Boise?
That's great. It's awesome to be back in Treasure Valley, back in the Northwest, getting a chance to work with Coach Danielson and everything that's going here. So it's been great.
What was it that convinced you that this was the right move for you, and how did it all come about?
Sure, it's a lot of things. College football is a crazy world right now, but the opportunity to come back and work with Spence, I had a great relationship with him. Opportunity to come back to Boise State, the program it is, the place that it is, those things fit me, they fit my family.
You mentioned Spence a couple times, but what makes him so special?
I think when you've been around him, and the cool thing about me and Coach Danielson is we had a chance to work behind the scenes. He was a defensive coordinator role. I'd known him for a long time when he was working at Azusa Pacific. We'd worked camps together, created a relationship here. So, unique person, unbelievable leader. How he treats the players on and off the field is what I'm aligned with.
How are you a different coach? From 2 years ago. What's the 2 years at Penn State done? For your career?
Yeah, it was great. Penn State was a great experience. We had the chance to go to 2 New Year's Six bowl games. Being a West Coast guy, we played in the Rose Bowl 2 years ago. So those things were awesome. Chance to get around different leadership, see how people work. Coach Franklin's an elite Power 5 head coach. So I think you grow and develop all. I got a chance to work with Manny Diaz, and we had a ton of success defensively, but more importantly to see how Manny ran things from that end. So just those experiences in general allow you to grow and develop. And I think the older you get, the more you appreciate those and you learn from those, and you want to bring those to the next place that you go.
Stacey, the route you come back here, it's not. I would say it's not conventional to go, from Penn State, bigger paychecks, big opponents, back to Boise State. Do we read into how much you wanted to be here? I guess.
Yeah, you can read into it, and I think that's a question, I've gotten from a lot of people, and it's just a matter of this is one of those unique situations in those unique places when you have an opportunity to come back. You don't get a lot of opportunities to come back, right? I mean, that doesn't happen very often in life, and so for me, the timing was right that way. It was an opportunity to come back to. It was hard to leave here, Now, it was a great opportunity at Penn State, but it was hard for me to leave here. There's just a lot of things that fit me and fit where I want to be right now in my career.
Given the financial, all that kind of picture, was this something where Spencer reached out to you, or did you have this idea? Hey, I saw they have an opening, I might be interested, or how did the first communication?
Yeah, Spence reached out to me right away. We communicated. Throughout my time that I left. So then from there, things just continue to grow and develop. And the dude's a good recruiter, man. He can close. So I give him credit on that. He was relentless on that end. I've coached football at almost every level. And so it's never been about money to me. Certainly you got to feed your family and you got to make sure you take care of them. But I've coached for $500 and I've coached for hundreds of thousands of dollars. And so for me, it's about coaching to the places you want to be.
And I know, it's kind of an awkward question or thing to talk about, I guess, in public. But you take a fairly significant pay cut to have to come back here, and you say it's not important, but it's not, as Jay said, not something that typically happens that often.
Yeah.
Was that they still gave you, I guess, a record deal for a non-coordinator? Did they still try to do everything they could to make this worth it to you?
Absolutely. I think they did an unbelievable job. I think if you look at the investment overall, what Jeremiah's done, with a commitment to football, and that's college football. If you want to compete at the level that you got to compete at, those are the commitments you got to make. You see that from a coaching staff standpoint. You see it as you're trying to work through the NIL world, which is a conversation in itself, and you see it overall from a facility standpoint. But Boise State certainly has the history, but it also has a lot of things in place to have success.
With your background as a special teams coordinator, special teams is so interesting because you work with such an eclectic group of people from all different types of positions and things like that. Why do you feel like you've had such success coaching special teams in your career?
I think one of the best things that I enjoy about special teams is I get the opportunity to work with everybody on the team. So I'm working with, obviously, the specialists in that area. I'm working with the O-line, PAT field goal. So I've always been a relationship guy. Fits me well. When I was a head Division II coach, I ran the special teams because I really like that ability to work with a large group of people, connect to different people, get a chance to know those guys at a personal level. Certainly special teams is about some schematics, but to me it's much more about culture and effort. And if you can get those two things going, you can fix the schematics and get people to play at a high level.
You look at the specialists, just how unique of an opportunity it is to work with Joe. And obviously I know you worked with him before, but I'm not sure if you worked with JFR before too. But have two of the best in the country. How much of a unique opportunity
Yeah, really cool. You know, I got a chance to work with Jonah here. He was lights out, awesome. I recruited James, so you get a chance to recruit the guy, and then I don't get a chance to work with him. So you sit in the far and you're happy he's having the success that he had. But it's great to work with him. I recruited Mason Hutton also, so it's kind of a reunion of guys that you saw 2 years ago when you get a chance. But 2 elite level specialists, you don't get that a lot of places, so we're excited to work with him.
Jonah's grown a lot since you had gone to Penn State. I don't know how much you've looked at films, coming here, getting set up. Where do you think he's taking his greatest strides? Where is he better now than when you left?
Maturity and consistency, and then I think there's some fundamental work. I think Tyler Ross has done a really good job with him. Some follow-through stuff that you just see that's different. And like anybody, you know, he had a great year the year I was here, but he was younger, just like all of us, a little less mature. And not that Jonah's an immature guy, but you can see the growth that he's had. He's a pro right now, you know, and I mean that by how he handles his business on the field, how he handles his business. And Jonah's always been awesome, but it's great to see that maturity and develop. But I also see it when I'm watching him working through his kicks, and then there's you know, you're seeing it at the NFL level, kicking big time kicks in situations there's a skill set to that, and it's really a mental mindset, and he has that experience to do it.
So, you know, I think his goal is obviously to be in the NFL, and I've watched him and think he's as good as a lot of those people who are there. So what does he need to do between now and next offseason to put himself in that?
Yeah, he needs to continue to get consistent with those kicks in those situations, continue to work through his kickoffs. That's always a part of it, because there's only 32 of those jobs out there, and those guys play for a while, right? So they're not leaving all the time. So he knows that, and those are the things that he needs to work on. And I tell you, I said it before, and I'll say it again, I'll ride with Jonah Donaldson anywhere, anytime.
I know that, you know, last year, Boise State didn't return a lot of kicks, they didn't return a lot of punts. What's your philosophy on that?
We're going to be aggressive in the return game, both kick and punt return. And part of it's they're situational. You know, let's start with kick return, right? Because that's the one everybody wants to talk about. Hey, do you just throw the fair catch at? Do you start on the 25-yard line? And there's times maybe you need to do that. And there's times you may not get returns. You're playing in the Mountain West. You're playing at elevation. And maybe that week you don't spend as much time in a return game because you may have a chance to do it. But I think if you've got an elite returner and you can change the momentum of a game. And when you look at kick return, when you're on the field, okay, unless it's the start of the half or the start of the game, something bad's happened, right? They've scored on you. How do we get that momentum back? How can we get that starting field position back for our offense and Bush and his crew right there to get in a better starting spot? Or if not out, let's flip the field with James and pin him back and play defense. So it's putting it all together from a field position standpoint. So we're going to be aggressive returning kicks. Now, that being said, there's a lot of factors into it, right? Who's your opponent? What is the windy conditions? We got to identify a kick returner that we feel it can give us that starting field position. So that my philosophy, and we were very aggressive at it the last 2 years at Penn State, is to get our guys out there and let's find momentum out there and let's find starting field position.
This program's had All-American punt returners, several NFL punt returners, and you probably watched the tape last year. I don't know what you saw, Stacy, the struggles in the punt return game specifically. I guess my question is, like, what type of athlete do you want to put back there? Are you going to ask Spencer Daniels, hey, if we can put Genty back there, thank you, I'd love that. Like, what do you want to have back there?
Yeah, that's a unique one. So kick return and punt return, two totally different skill sets. You may have a guy who can do both, right? But to me, that punt returner is a unique skill set. We've got to identify a guy who can have the skills, number one, to make that decision. Okay, that ball's hanging in the air for 4 seconds. You're working on how much is the guy held up? Where are we at in the field position standpoint? Are heels at the 7-yard line? All those things factor into that, but you better have some ability to make the first guy miss. You better be able to have some wiggle, and you better be able to make that punter miss at the end. But to me, it's also a bigger picture of how are you setting that up. You know, we've been a heavy pressure team in our punt return in the past. What that does is obviously it creates the ability to block punts. It speeds up the punt operation right there. It holds people in. So we want to be able to have a good mix where we're putting the pressure on people that we're going to bring pressure at punts, but also be able to mix in enough returns to create the extra yardage right there. And we would live that world a little bit this year at Penn State. We had, you know, early on we were pretty conservative with it and we're just okay. We made a punt return decision. I had a guy, Daquan Hardy, that was unbelievable, end up leading the Big Ten in punt return. So to me, it's not that guy goes a long ways, okay? That guy goes a long ways. But it's also philosophically, how are you attacking people? How are you trying to put yourself in an advantageous position, whether you're bringing blocks, whether you're bringing returns? At the end of the day, to try to create positive yardage and momentum, once again, to put the offense in the best field position we can get, make game-changing plays on special teams, and then if not, let's be able to flip the field, pin them, and put our defense in a position where we can win the field position back.
How would you put the breakdown, like between the return person and then if you had percentage of that blocking and everything else, what percentage?
Yeah, it's hard for me to put a percentage on it because I do think each team has a different picture, right? And I don't know right now. I mean, I got to get through spring. I got to get a feel for where we're at with these guys. We've got to identify who those best guy or guys are. We got to go through summer and see that. But I will tell you this: we studied for a long time. When we bring blocks, we average about 7.7 more yards per return. So over last 10 years, we looked at that. Now that doesn't mean we don't call returns, but we're creating natural space. We're holding people in. We're forcing the ball out quicker. So those are some things that we look at. So it's hard for me to answer the percentage because each place and each time is going to be a little bit different. And then it's going to be a factor where are you at in the game? I mean, are we down? Do we need to be a little bit more aggressive in that situation? Are you situation you're controlling the game? All those factor into it, but we will be aggressive with it. We're going to do everything we can to create yardage and create blocks in that phase.
What about the inside linebackers too? I mean, you've coached a lot of different positions during your years of coaching. What's appealing to you about also having that title?
Yeah, so I played the position back in the day. I've coached inside. Primarily, it's been I've coached everything on that side of the ball. But for me, that's the core of a defense, man. That's the heartbeat of a defense. Those guys are where it starts. I truly believe that. So I love being with that group. It really fits naturally with special teams because those guys are involved with you in all the special teams also. So that's my home. I feel very, very comfortable there, and it's near and dear to my heart.
It got better down the stretch last year. But I mean, for a good chunk of the season, it was statistically one of the worst defenses Boise State's had around here in a long time last year. I mean, I know you're still new, but you come in, Coach Stockton comes in. I mean, do you feel like that the pieces are in place for this defense to make some improvements next year?
I do, and we're going through the tape right now. So to be real upfront with you, I haven't watched everything. You take a peek at it, but I know how they're going to play defense at Boise State. You want to go to places that have done a historic good job of playing defense. Boise State's done that. We need to do that here. It was no different when I was at Penn State. We played great defense there, but they had historically done for whatever reason, whether it's the DNA of the place, the type of players you're getting. Boise State's that, and we're looking forward to getting that rolling.
Stacey, you've known Spencer for a long time, but what's been your interaction with him? How long have you known Eric Chenander, and what's that relationship been like since you've been there?
Yeah, I really didn't know Eric, and we kind of been in some of the same places. The coaching world's small, but I really didn't know him. We know a lot of the same people. He's been great, extremely intelligent, understands football. Just a little time I've been around him, a genuine person. So I'm really excited to work with him.
Recruiting's really a long play game, and assistant coach tenures generally are not. They're pretty short. Just the uniqueness and what it means to you to be able to work with Jonah for one more year and to work with JFR.
That's cool. It's cool to be around guys that you've known, and like was able to recruit with James, and so get a chance to actually work with him now. After going through the whole process of getting him over here, I'm excited for that.
Is James the first player you work with that not only has but loves having a perm?
Yeah, probably a perm. Yeah, probably a perm. Yeah.
I mean, you put, like I said, special teams guys into the NFL. I mean, in your opinion, you think, these two, if everything goes well, we're going to see them doing their thing on Sundays?
I sure hope so. They got the talent to do it. It's a tough league. And there's some decision and factors. Sometimes it's not even about talent. It's about when that opportunity comes. I think with the advent of some of these new leagues, it gives guys chances to stay in there and stay in the cycle. So I sure hope so. They're talented, so we need to make sure we do everything on our end to put them in that position.
I feel like the last time you were here with special teams, you kind of had like a famous thing that you would yell. What is it exactly?
Well, I'm going to yell a lot, so I don't. We'll get it rolling, but we'll be loud. We'll have great energy. We'll have great juice. We have a little SWAT on the ready mantra. We get going, so we'll be dialed. We'll have a lot of fun with it.
He's living in the same neighborhood?
I got a bit into a house. I'm gonna be close. Yeah.
As much as you can you recap what SWAT on the ready is all about?
Yeah, so we name all our, for us, it's a mantra, making sure we're ready to play every down. We tie it into some stuff with the SWAT teams, but there's a whole deal with it. I'll get you in the clinic sometime in the back door. We'll get you going. We'll get you clapping. We'll get you chanting. We'll make sure you're ready to roll.
Are you going to bring back your weekly SWAT team?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
A couple of young linebackers that, like DJ was saying, just kind of got better as the year went on. How excited are you for guys like Andrew and Marco, and just to see their growth and into next year?
Yeah, it's pretty cool because those guys were red shirts when I was here last time. So, you come back 2 years later and they've grown up, and so it's neat to work with them. Both great young men, and so you have history with those guys too. So a lot of times when you walk into a place, you're meeting guys for the first time. You're trying to get a feel for them. I know those kids pretty well. I recruited Marco hard when I was at Utah State, and Boise beat us on him. So I'm glad that happened because Mark was awesome. But you got a relationship. So I walk in the room, know about 50% of the guys, and that's been cool.
What were those conversations like, and whether it was the first text to James or Jonah, or the first call, or the first time maybe they found out? Maybe it's a better question for them, but for you, what was that first initial thing, like, I'm coming back?
Yeah, I just said, hashtag SWAT on the ready, let's go. And it was pretty good. We got talking. And, you pick up the phone with Jonah. We spent a lot of time together, as you do in this business. And, same thing with James and all those guys. So it's a familiar conversation. So it was great.
You mentioned Tyler. How do you envision you guys working together and his role kind of still helping out? And I know he, has a young family, and he's trying to make this a profession maybe for him now that he's retired, from playing. And so in terms of just what his future, I guess, and just your thoughts on him being around.
Yeah, Tyler's been great. I had a relationship with him here before. I got a chance to meet him. And the kicking world's a small world too. So I think the ability for us to have a specialist that is on staff that can look at the tape and take a peek at those is a huge advantage. We were fortunate to have it at the last place with Eric Sachs, who actually kicked here. So that you'll be able to have an analyst that works schematically with me, and then an analyst that can look at the tape and also deal with a specialist, to me, is a major advantage. And I think Tyler does a great job with that.
I think Avery's one of one. When you were here last time,
Yeah.
he was your returner. Is there?
I wasn't here with Avery. I was on the other side of it with Avery. I sure as heck wish I was here with Avery. Yeah, he smoked me on one, up the sideline. So, yeah, Avery was awesome.
Do you
Yeah.
guys have a guy like that? He was more than his ability. He had such a mentality when it came to special teams. Like, I think he believed he was the best in the universe at what he did, humbly. But do you feel like you guys have a guy like that?
We're going to find out. I can't answer that question for you right now. I've watched the tape, but it's hard. You don't know when you're outside the building. There's just so many different factors that may go into it. So we got to find out through spring. We got to find out through fall camp. Now, I don't know if there's another Avery Williams out there. That dude was returning kicks and punts, was blocking punts off the edge. A walk-on that comes in here and does what he does. And I've stayed. I got a chance to know him when I was here last time. But I hope we have another Avery Williams. I hope we have something close. But what we got to do is find that. We got to go through situations, drills, challenge these kids and see if we can't find somebody that's in that role.
I know you haven't been back a couple weeks, but have you kind of noticed the buzz around the city and just with this team now and with Spencer and with some of the getting Malachi and then yesterday getting Chris, and just seems like the I don't know if it's because the playoffs expanding or what, but it seems like right now the interest level and excitement around this team is at an all-time high.
Yeah, there's a lot of buzz, and that's cool. That's what you want. But we've got to take it day by day. For us, and I know that's coach speak, and nobody wants to hear that. But the reality is, hey, how good of a workout can we have this morning when we start meeting on special teams? Can we have the best special teams meeting that day? And so, if you can take those piece by piece and just keep building days, stacking days, getting better and better. Pretty soon, you're late in the season and you're where you want to be. But if you lose focus on that and you want the buzz and you want all that stuff from an outside world, we've got to make sure we keep ourselves focused on what really is going to be what puts us in the position we want to be, and that's the day-to-day work.
And is that, it's safe to say that buzz that I know has been building, and you're part of that when they announced you as one of the new hires. But is that, I assume, as we talked about at the beginning, why you wanted to be here? Do you see the potential, whether it is the playoff or whatever else, with what Spencer's doing, that you see Boise State being able to be back on that national conversation?
Yeah, and I grew up out in the Northwest, so for me, Boise State is a destination place. So, yeah, there's a ton of buzz, and we need to put that product out on the field. And I guess I'd say I wouldn't have came here if I didn't feel that way.
Coach, last time you were here, you were coaching the edges, and you had a GA on your staff that now is a full-time coach here at Boise State. What have you seen of the maturity and growth from Jabril Frazier?
Jabril's awesome. So got a chance to work with him. He helped me a ton in that room. I was coaching edges, and he played the position, knew the system. You knew he was going to be a rising star in this business. So when they promoted him to full time, man, I was so fired up for him because I knew the work that he put in. I know how professional it is, and he's only going to get better and better. And he loves Boise State, and so I think that's the common thing when you look at the guys that are on the staff. Guys that have played here, guys that have came back, and so for Jabril, it's been really cool to watch him grow. He's only going to get better, but it's a huge asset to Boise State.